Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, Butterfly Spirit 314. Today guys, what I want to do is I want to talk about 5 interesting facts about goldenrod that I learned from an article titled How to Identify Goldenrod plus Foraging Tips by Tara Dodrill. So I'm going to share 5 interesting tips that I learned from this article. The reason why I even read this article to begin with was because I went to a local park and there was a balloon race, so a hot air balloon race. And before I even walked to the event and got to the location, then I went through I believe it was a wildflower garden area at the park. And I had never seen that area before, so me and my boyfriend went through the area and we saw some very beautiful wildflowers. And I'm not sure if they were native to our state or not, but we just thought it was really cool. So it was very quiet in that garden area. We saw bees and we saw butterflies and all different types of insects there amongst the flowers and trees and shrubs and stuff. So we thought it was really cool. It was free to go into. And I took pictures of different flowers that I saw in the garden area. And after that, I went to the hot air balloon event. And then when I got home, I looked through the pictures of the flowers that I had taken. And then it wasn't until I reflected back on those pictures, maybe some days later, that I saw a yellow flowered plant and I thought, oh, look, that must be goldenrod. Because I was on Facebook and someone in the herbalism group that I'm in posted a picture of goldenrod in an area where they had horses enclosed and a gate and things, and there was like a lot of goldenrod plants and stuff. And so I thought that was really cool, and my mind instantly went back to the yellow flowered plant that I saw. And I was sure that because the plant I saw looked like goldenrod, I thought it was goldenrod, but I didn't want to stop there. I mean, I did want to go and forage it because I thought it was goldenrod, but for some reason, I thought, let me make sure this is the right plant, because I didn't want to find myself, picking the wrong plant or anything. So this kind of got me started on reading articles about goldenrod. I read 2 articles. Well, I've read 3 articles so far. I'm taking notes on them. I've taken notes on 2 articles so far of the 3 articles that I read. So the How to Identify Goldenrod plus Foraging Tips was an article that I read by Ms. Tara Dodrill, and I found some interesting facts in it. One of the things that I noticed is that the article was an overview, and it gave me a good introduction to goldenrod. But the introduction to goldenrod is not one of my interesting tips. So I just want to make sure that you guys, know that. So without further ado, I'm going to share the 5 interesting facts. I might even throw in a bonus tip in here as well about goldenrod. All right. So according to our author, Ms. Dodrill, the first interesting fact that I liked about this article was it said that there are about 130 species of goldenrod plants. Now, if you go online and you search this information for the amount of goldenrod species there are, you're probably going to find that there are more than 100 different species of goldenrod. I found that there is around maybe 140 or 150 different species of goldenrod plants. So one thing that I think we can all accept is there are over 100 different types of species of goldenrod plants. Okay, so I thought I would share that little tidbit because some people are probably going to comment below and say, no, there's more than there's more than 130. There's 140 or 150 different varieties of goldenrod. One thing I want you guys to know is it's not a race to say how many of these plants that there are. What we do want to do is make sure that with goldenrod that we are making sure we identify that we are handling goldenrod, okay? That's what we want to do. We want to make sure we actually have goldenrod, okay? So give me just a second. I want to make sure I'm still recording. Awesome. Okay. So the interesting fact that I found in the article was that there are about 130 species of goldenrod plants according to this author. A second interesting fact that I thought was cool was that goldenrod grows in the wild throughout North America, Europe, Asia, Canada, and South America. It is hardy in agricultural zones 2 through 9. I'm not really sure what agricultural zones are, but maybe that could be just zones that goldenrod thrives in or something like that. So I think it's pretty cool that goldenrod, as far as this author is concerned, grows all over the place. I have read some information about goldenrod growing different places, but I like how she adds this tip in here, because the good thing about goldenrod, as far as this point is concerned, is that it grows everywhere, and it seems like everybody gets a chance to enjoy goldenrod. I know there's some places that people may live where it's not at, but it's nice that it's a flower that different types of people can enjoy in different places. So that's a cool thing. Something else, I'm just adding along to this point as well. So I found out that with goldenrod, you can actually, if goldenrod is not near you, you can order goldenrod dried, and then you can use it to make a tincture or salve or oil, whatever it is that you're trying to make as an herbalist. So that's a good thing. You can still enjoy it even if it's not growing right next to you. That's a really cool thing that makes goldenrod versatile. A third interesting fact or paragraph about goldenrod that our author mentions is that this wild plant is often foraged for its anti-inflammatory properties. It has been used both internally and topically to reduce swelling, to treat minor wounds, gout, kidney stones, and arthritis. Goldenrod can be crushed and used either fresh or dried in poultices, salves, tinctures to make soap, or placed in gel capsules for measured doses. I think that's cool. I think it's great how versatile goldenrod is, like I was talking about a little bit earlier. It's really cool that we get to know what goldenrod can be used for. There may be other uses for it as well. And I just like how the author not hints to, but she tells you what it can be used for, okay? And I think that's really great for a beginner like myself and others of you out here who are beginner herbalists like me. All right, a fourth interesting fact about goldenrod is Native Americans used goldenrod to sweeten the taste of natural medicine used to treat a host of ailments and conditions. Now, I don't know for certain if Native Americans used goldenrod to sweeten the natural medicine that they made, but it would make sense to me that if somebody is going to ingest natural medicine, then you do want it to taste good to the person who is ingesting it. So it makes sense that it can taste sweet, like honey or maple syrup, or something else just sweet, so that a person ingests it. One thing I hope to do is to do some research on this point to see if Native Americans did in fact use goldenrod. I'm guessing, since the author has this included in her article, that it is a true fact, but I'm going to do some research on my own and just try to find out, if this was the case. But I can imagine that, with a lot of the herbal medicines I've taken, it's a lot easier to ingest a herbal remedy if it's sweet. A lot of the ones are that I get from a local herbalist. So I think that's pretty cool. A fifth interesting fact that I found in this article is all species of goldenrod can be found growing in livestock pastures, hay fields, in ditches, along the side of the road, in full sun areas. A variety of goldenrod prefer partial shade and seaside or mountain climates. So that's a lot of different places that goldenrod can grow at. Like I was saying before, it's pretty versatile as to where it could be. So, you know, I think this is kind of a marker to where you can actually find goldenrod in your environment, you know, whether it's in mountains or on the side of the road or out in the pastures or hayfields or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. And this probably points to why the person in the herbalism group that I'm in posted a picture of goldenrod being in the I guess in the horse enclosure, because it was out in farmland. So that's near like the hayfields or pastures. So that makes a lot of sense here. All right. So that's tip number 5, but I have hold on, let me make sure that's tip number 5. Hang on. Okay, so that is tip number 5. Okay, but I do have a bonus tip. So bonus tip number 6, and this is one of the most important that I want you guys to take away from this. I mean, all the tips are important, but this is by far the most. Okay, so I'm going to include an extra sentence in here, or extra couple sentences in here about goldenrod that you guys really need to know. Okay. Groundosel, ragwort, staggerweed, and liferoot are all common names for plants in the Sciencio genus that can closely resemble goldenrod at first glance. They are part of the largest genus of flowering plants known to man. While not all members of the Sciencio family are poisonous, the ones that are known to be toxic containers of pyrrolizidine alkaloids, or PAs, these compounds can cause liver damage in both livestock and people. Okay, so the interesting fact is goldenrod has lookalikes. The lookalikes happen to be groundosel, ragwort, staggerweed, and liferoot. Okay, and to somebody who is a beginner, these plants look a lot like goldenrod. And there are some beginner herbalists out there who go into the wild and they pick plants that they believe is goldenrod, but they can happen to be these toxic lookalikes of groundosel, ragwort, staggerweed, and liferoot. And if these are foraged, the important thing for you guys to know is that these are toxic. Okay, now the pictures that you see in the background here, these are all goldenrod plants, okay, that I found on Google Images. But the important thing for you to know is that if you are a beginner, and even if you're not a beginner, but you're just somebody who maybe you're really skilled with herbs, but you haven't foraged before, it's easy to confuse these flowering plants for goldenrod. And one of the most important things is that if you guys are going to forage goldenrod from wherever you're foraging it from, you have to make sure you make a positive ID of this plant. The reason why you want to make a positive ID that the plant that you're going to be foraging is goldenrod, you want to do that so that you don't end up picking up the toxic lookalikes of groundosel, ragwort, staggerweed, and liferoot. Okay, if you do forage, if you do mistake a plant that you think is goldenrod, but it happens to be, let's say, staggerweed or ragwort, and you happen to ingest, any one of these plants, if you ingest it, it can cause liver damage. And this can happen to livestock, or it can happen to people. Livestock being, horses and cows and goats and, and things like, and, animals like that. Not things like that, but animals like that. And it can also happen to people. Okay. And, you may not know that you ingested any of these toxic lookalikes to goldenrod. You may not have noticed that. And I know some of you listening may be like, well, if there's toxic lookalikes to the goldenrod, then why on earth am I going to go and forage it? You can go and forage goldenrod for its benefits. Like I was saying before, according to our author, Miss Dodrill, that goldenrod does have some beneficial types of health benefits that helps us to heal. And this is one of the reasons why people forage it. As I was stating before, goldenrod is often foraged for its anti-inflammatory properties. It can be used both internally or topically to reduce swelling, to treat minor wounds, gout, kidney stones, arthritis. Okay. And it can be used in the forms of poultices, salves, tinctures. It can be used in soap, or it can be put into gel capsules for a certain amount of dosage for the herb. So it's important to know that, yes, it does have benefits. Now, if you guys are not sure about the type of plant that you are about to pick or forage in the wild, it's good to have somebody that's there to help you. So you can go with a local herbalist and see if they can identify that plant as goldenrod, so that you make sure that you pick the right plant. You can also, if you want, you can look in some sort of field guides, and you can use field guides to see several field guides, maybe a few, to identify that the plant that you're going to forage is goldenrod, and you want to take those guides with you, and then make sure that you cross-reference each, so that you make sure your idea is goldenrod. If for some reason you don't have any field guides or a local herbalist around that can walk with you to identify that the plant you want to forage is goldenrod, you can take a knowledgeable friend, someone who is an herbalist, and they can go out and they can see if that plant is goldenrod. Okay. Now, if they have no experience with goldenrod, then of course, you don't want to take that person out there with you, because then it'll be both of you guys being clueless. You know what I mean? So you want to be very, 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 very sure, not just with goldenrod, but any type of herb that you're going to forage from the wild. You want to make sure any herb that you're going to forage from the wild is the correct plant, because you don't want to run the risk of picking a toxic lookalike and that lookalike causing you some sort of rash if you apply it topically, an allergic reaction, or even some type of organ damage in your body, like liver damage or damage to other organs that you may have. So, we don't want to run the risk. So if you're saying, oh, I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to pick goldenrod because it could be a toxic lookalike, that's okay. Like I was saying before, you can order goldenrod over the internet, and you can have some dried goldenrod sent to you, just in case you're not sure. Like, I thought about that myself, that maybe it's a little too unsafe to do this, to try to forage this particular plant. But it's okay to start off with the dried herb first, and then eventually going out and foraging at some point when you're more comfortable. That's completely okay. All right. So just know that there are risks when you're going out and foraging herbs. It's not just that you can look at that, you can look at a plant that looks like that herb and it means that that's specifically what it is, because it may be another plant altogether. Okay. So, Learning about herbs is a process. You know, you're not going to get it overnight, okay? You're definitely not going to do that. My advice is, if you want to go into foraging, one good thing you can do is take a class on foraging herbs so that you know what to look for. You know how to identify the plants. It's okay if you don't have the money for a foraging class. That's okay, but maybe find a foraging book that can give you some tips on what to do to make sure that, you know, that you have the right herb. You know, just take the time to research first. And then, you know, after you do a lot of research, then I would say, you know what, still as a safety net, have somebody go with you who's knowledgeable, whether it's a local herbalist or somebody who's a friend of yours who's really good with identifying plants. I mean, there's people out there who do have experience with plants, and they got this experience maybe, you know, from, you know, their grandparents or a family friend or something like that. So it's okay to do that, all right? And lastly, what I want to do is I want to bring up the toxic lookalikes to goldenrod, because I feel like that's going to be something that's really helpful, okay? So give me just a second. So I'm going to make sure I specifically have goldenrod. So this is a goldenrod plant here that you see these bees on, okay? So I'm going to look up groundicell, ragwort, staggerweed, and life-root. I'm going to start with life-root first. Okay. All right, so let me... Alrighty, so let's see. All right, so life root plant. Let me see, life root flowers, because I believe it looks like it. All right, so okay, so this is, we have a picture here, and it says that it is life root. So it says medicinal uses, but let's not get so caught up or worried about, you know, the part about medicinal uses, because we did hear that this is a toxic lookalike to goldenrod, okay? So what I'm going to show you is the up closeness of the plant. So these are products. Here we go. So here is life root, okay? And let's see what other life root we have here. Okay, so here's more life root. I'm not sure if I showed you guys the same picture or not, but this is life root, okay? Now, this version of life root does look like a goldenrod species, I believe. It has, you know, the yellow flowers and things, and it's easily, you know, confused with it. So let me see if I can find the life root in that looks like life root. Okay. Alrighty, so I was thinking I was going to get a side-by-side view, but I don't see it right now, so that's okay. It's all right. So let's just stick with this. So here we have life root, okay? So we actually have life root. So I'm going to get a close picture. So we have some life root, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and look up groundicell. Groundicell. Okay, so here we have some ground to sell. I'm gonna get a picture specifically with the flower. Okay. Here's another picture of ground to sell, but I'm gonna go back. So we have some ground to sell, and there was another picture that I saw before. Here is also some ground to sell. This is ground to sell. This is ground to sell too. So there's just different pictures of ground to sell. It's pretty scary that this is the ground to sell because it looks like a close match to Goldenrod, which is really shocking that it looks like that. But so I'm gonna just get a picture of ground to sell. It's just one version of it, but here is some ground to sell here. Here we go. So here we have some ground to sell. So nice, looks like a nice tall plant, probably. So here you go, ground to sell. I'm gonna settle on a picture. All right, so here we have, okay, there we go. So here we have some ground to sell, okay? We see live fruit, ground to sell, okay? And then let's look up some staggerweed. I'm just doing a little research here. Yellow. Okay, so we have some staggerweed here. I see a stock image here. So we have some staggerweed. I'm trying to see if they got some more. Okay. So we have some staggerweed here. Okay. There's some staggerweed. Yeah. So we got some staggerweed here. This is kind of the closest here. So some staggerweed. And then let's see. So live fruit, ground to sell, staggerweed, ragwort. Ragwort. So we got some ragwort here too. So here's ragwort. And this is dangerous as well. I think it's kind of interesting that this article mentions that, I think I saw it somewhere. It said that, I think somewhere or another, it mentions something about it growing in the countryside. We see a horse here near the ragwort. So ragwort, staggerweed, ground to sell, live fruit. So all of these look like they are yellow flowers. Okay. Now let me look for goldenrod and see if I can find a goldenrod that looks more flowery. This one is kind of a flowery kind of plant. Here we go. So you see this, guys? You see this, how it has this these like kind of petals here? This having petals can easily be confused it can be confused with these plants, right? Because they have petals, so it's kind of easy to be confused that. So the goldenrod is actually here with its petals. Here it is. So this is goldenrod here, and I mean it's yellow. It says the petals, you know. Let me see if there's a more closer goldenrod. Let me see if they have different types. Goldenrod. I'm gonna say with petals. Okay. So the closest is probably going to be this one. So this is a type of goldenrod. It's Solidago radiga, and this has petals. So this particular goldenrod here, it can be confused for the staggerweed, or the groundcell, or the live fruit flowers. Okay. And it's probably, you see that it has this fuzzy stuff in here, but the plant probably doesn't look specifically like this all the time. It probably has, a center similar to the groundcell and live fruit and the ragwort. Okay. So, look at this. Do you see these fuzziness inside here? There's fuzziness that's inside the flowers. See? So this fuzziness, if you were looking at goldenrod, you see this one, the fuzziness in here. Look at this ragwort. It's fuzziness inside there. If we move these two, okay, this is goldenrod. So this one's goldenrod. This is ragwort. Look at this. There's some fuzziness that's in here, okay? There's a fuzziness that's in here. There's the fuzzy part, okay? So it's easy to get these confused. It's very easy to do that. Here we go. That's even better. Okay. So here we got some goldenrod. Here's the goldenrod right here. Okay. With the petals. And here is the ragwort. Okay. So it is possibly easy. If you're looking from this distance, and for ragwort, right? If you're looking here, and let's say you're just at, this distance right here, they can be confused easily. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that, and just let you guys know that, it can be easy to confuse goldenrod, a goldenrod variety with ragwort. Okay, it's easy to do that. So that's why it's so important to do research to make sure you actually have goldenrod. Okay. And here's some cute little horsies, and they're over here near, this ragwort. And goldenrod stands, it stands right here. It actually does. I'm gonna find some horses around goldenrod real quick. So. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to find some horses around goldenrod. I don't know if I'm gonna find any. This is some goldenrod near a farm. It's basically like in a farm area. I was trying to look and see if I can find a horse near goldenrod. Here we go. So this yellow plants here looks a lot like the ragwort. Okay, remember you saw the picture with the this horse right here? This is around ragwort. Okay, and you see that these horses here, they're near some goldenrod plants that are in the field here. So, it's easy for a horse to get confused. It's easy for a person to get confused as well about what they're gathering. So it's very, very important to make sure that you are you're IDing the plant that the herb you're trying to harvest first before you pick it and then find out it's poisonous. Now goldenrod is not poisonous. It is edible. It can be used to eat and cook with. Goldenrod is edible, but the toxic look-alike likes of ragwort and staggerweed and groundcell and live fruit are toxic. Okay, and it's very, 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 very important that you make sure before you decide you're going to go out and, let's say, harvest goldenrod, you make sure that you ID the plants. And if you're not sure, make sure you take somebody who's knowledgeable with you who can help you. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you guys. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and link the article that I read where I got these helpful facts from. I'll even show you what it looks like before I end this video. Give me just a moment. Let's see how to identify. Here we go. There we go. Here's the article that I read, How to Identify Goldenrod plus Foraging Tips by Miss Tara Dodrill, and I'm gonna link this in the description below for you guys to read. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I did get a lot of the interesting facts from this article, so I do want to credit the author, Miss Dodrill, for writing this article. It was really, really helpful, and I hope you guys go ahead and take a look at it as well. Thank you. Bye bye, guys.